Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. All right, so welcome everyone to this complete email marketing course. I'm going to try to summarize in 60 minutes what I was teaching in 15 weeks at Taft College. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that you're going to be able to learn practical skills today so that you can begin to do email marketing and you can make good money. So let me grab my pen. So today I'm going to teach email marketing basically in 60 minutes. And so I'm going to teach you really the essence of email marketing. And my approach to email marketing is radically different from the approach of other teachers, whether they're private or, teachers in a college or university, because I view email marketing very much like a game, and it's a game that you should enjoy doing, because if you don't enjoy the game of email marketing, obviously you're not going to do it, and you're not going to make money. And speaking of money, typically studies have shown that when you invest $1 in email marketing, you're getting a return of 40x. So you're getting $40 in revenue. So that's a pretty good return on investment. But my approach to email marketing is very, very simple. I separate it into 3 different games. And so you could play those 3 games yourself, or you can outsource each of these games to a person who is specialized in each game. And you're going to see that each game has a different set of challenges, and therefore it requires a different set of skills, and it also has a different scoreboard. So the first game in email marketing is, I would call, the lead generation game. Okay, so it's all about generating leads. And later on, I'm going to define exactly what I mean by lead. The second game is about content creation. And another way to put it is that you have to engage. But engagement is really just a function of how good your content is. And I'm going to share with you, a very basic framework, RUV. Your content has to be relevant, it has to be useful, and it has to be valuable to your subscribers. The third game, which is the last game, and it really depends on the previous 2 games. The third game is obviously, the sales conversions. So this is where you're supposed to convert your subscribers into paying customers, because this is how you're going to be able to make money. So that's really what is unique about my approach to teaching email marketing, because I really view it as a game. Okay, it's not something you have to do. It's not something that you have to drag yourself or motivate yourself to. It's really a game. It's really like a sport. And so in the next 60 minutes, I'm going to teach you how you can play these 3 games, and how you can perform at each of these games. Now, it's important to understand that you have to be good at each of these games. Okay, because as an email marketing consultant, as a business teacher, also a business consultant, I always tell people, when I meet them, I ask them questions in order to figure out, like, where is the problem? Okay, because I think that, human beings have infinite potential. Every business has infinite revenue potential. But what is stopping people or businesses is that oftentimes they don't know what is blocking them. And so there's only one of 3 things that is blocking you from making money with email marketing. It's either, lead generation or content creation or sales conversion. So you're going to have a problem in each of these, in each of these 3 games. And the way to score yourself, evaluate yourself, is to give yourself a score, let's say out of 10, in terms of lead generation. So for some people, they might give themselves a 3 out of 10. And don't worry, it doesn't matter where you are. Don't worry. I'm going to show you how you can improve. For other people who might be very entertaining or informative, they could give themselves a score of 5 out of 10. And then for other people, for sales conversion, I don't know, they can give themselves 6 out of 10. So obviously here you can see that the problem is the lead generation. That is likely to block you or restrict your income potential, because even though you're very good at selling or you have a great offer, which is 6 here, this is the problem. You're not generating enough leads, right? And so you have to fix that problem. So if we go deeper into these 3 games, you got to ask yourself, okay, so I got to generate leads. Okay, so how do I generate leads in a way that is consistent? This is very important. You want to be professional. You don't want to, go to networking events and, 1 week you have like a lot of leads because you went to 2 events, and next week you don't have any leads because you didn't show up anywhere. So you want your lead generation to be consistent. Okay. Second, for content creation, like I said before, you want to create content that is relevant, that is useful, and that is valuable. And as long as you satisfy those criteria, then there's a good chance that you're going to sustain the interest of subscribers, and they're going to stick with you. They're not going to unsubscribe. Okay, it's very important. As an aside, let's take a look at what's going on Facebook. What are people sharing on Facebook? Well, what you're sharing on Facebook, it's not really relevant to people, to your friends. Like, you can share your vacation photos, a party with your friends, and, oh, you're such a social person. You're so outgoing. You're taking pictures of yourself in glamorous places. Well, that's not really relevant to your friends. It's not useful to them, and it's not really valuable to them. Okay. So whatever people are putting on Facebook, it's just, I don't know, it's not really valuable to their friends. And, once in a while, your friends are going to like it, and, they want to support you. But basically, whatever people are doing on Facebook is not really helping them to make money. Now, of course, on Facebook, the point is not to make money. I'm just using this as an example. People on Facebook, they're spending time and they're, creating content on Facebook, but it doesn't satisfy these 3 criteria. So you can see right away that they're not really being of service or of help to, to their friends on Facebook. And I'm not dismissing, the value of Facebook to connect your friends and family, but it's not really a good place to be, if you want to make money, if you're serious about your finances. And a lot of people post stuff on Facebook, like sometimes on TikTok and, on YouTube. But you have to consider the fact that your time is precious, right? And so you want to create content that is relevant, that is useful, and that is valuable. And that is the way to make money with email. Now, of course, if you're posting content on Facebook just to stroke your ego and you just want to posture, that's fine. That's your ego. I'm not going to judge against that. But I just want to mention that in terms of content, that's really the game. You post content online, it has to be relevant, useful, and valuable. Now, the third game is sales conversion. And so, sales is basically a course that I used to teach. So it's very, it's very rigorous. Selling is a process. But here, when I talk about sales, I just mean the conversion, from someone who is a subscriber to your list, right? And you want to turn them into a paying customer. So how do you do that conversion? That's really the challenge. Now, I'm going to draw a diagram that shows you how these 3 are related. But fundamentally, at a high level, you want to give yourself a score. How good are you with lead generation? And it has to be consistent. How good are you with creating content that is that is relevant, that is useful, and that is valuable? And how good are you at converting, subscribers into customers? Now, here's a diagram that can show you how these three are related, and it's really like three different levels of a game. You can see lead generation. This is where you have to be, right? You have to generate leads, and when you generate enough leads, then you can practice your content game. And after you've mastered the content game, in other words, you create content that is relevant, useful, and valuable. This is probably 80% of the criteria. There are other criteria, but I just focus on the basic. After you master the content game, then you can practice the sales game. So it's not necessary to make money right away at the beginning. At the beginning, there's always a kind of learning curve, where you're learning, nothing's happening, and suddenly at one point you begin to have sales. At one point you begin to have sales, and suddenly sales are shooting through the roof and you're making money. But there's always a period of learning, and you have to expect that, right? Like if email marketing is something you're doing for the first time, then you have to expect some time where you're going to learn and you're not going to make money. But it's only at this point that suddenly you have your first sale, and you should really celebrate, because it's pretty it's a breakthrough. And this is where you make the first sales, your first purchase, sales transaction, and hopefully it's not your mom who's trying to encourage you. That's when you should really celebrate, because now you just have to replicate, and you're going to make a lot more money here. So there's always some learning time, and during that learning time, you're basically learning how to generate leads and how to create content. Okay, this is really necessary. My drawing is a little bit off today. So you have to generate leads and you have to create content. And, these are two different games, right? And so the first game, which is about lead generation, is, and by the way, there are shortcuts, of course. There are hacks that you can use in order to really rapidly, generate leads or create content or generate sales. But here, I'm just assuming that you don't have those hacks, and I'm teaching you like everything from A to Z. So the first priority is how do you generate leads. But yeah, I forgot, I promised you that I would link these three. So here, this is the circle that represents the number of leads that you can generate in a week. Okay, so we're just going to say leads per week. And within that circle, that represents the total number of leads per week. Within that circle, you're going to have a smaller circle, and here it represents the number of engaged people. Okay, and they are engaged if, for example, they are clicking on a link or on links inside of your email address. So just the fact that somebody opens your email doesn't mean that they are engaged. Okay, engaged is really the metric here. And so you can see that the number of people who are engaged here is smaller than the number of people on your list. Okay, and then within the among the people who are engaging, there's a small number who will actually buy something. So I'm going to indicate that by a $sign, and these are the number of customers. And so you can see that you don't really have to sell to all of your leads. Like let's say your leads, I'm just going to put here as an example, let's say you have 1,000, let's say 100 people. And then the number of people who open your emails and who actually click on a link or various links. So let's say we have, 40 people. And then out of these 40 people who engage with your content, let's say we have 3 people who buy. And so this is how you measure the effectiveness of your email marketing. You look at those three games, right? The first game is lead generation, and you have 100. The second game, every week you have like 40 people who actually read your email. And the third game is 3 people who buy. And again, I just want to reiterate what I said before. You can easily see where the problem is. So for example, if you have well, no, actually, let's forget about that. So this diagram basically just shows you the relationship between the number of leads, the number of engaged readers and subscribers, and the number of customers. So obviously, I'm gonna draw a different diagram that shows you how, like, if you play game 1 and game 2 and you're not really performing, it's gonna restrict the potential that you have for making money. So let's say we have scenario 1 where the person has a very small whatchamacallit, very small number of leads, right? Actually, let's make it a little bit bigger. And you have a second person who has more leads, okay? And so if I ask you, well, who's winning? You might say, well, this guy's winning, but wait, hold on. That's not the end of it, because this person has a number of people who are engaged. And here, let's say a similar number of people who are engaged. So they're more or less equal, right? These are the people who are engaged. So who's winning so far? Well, they're about equal. And then you have here the number of people who are buying. So these are the customers. And here, for some reason, the circle is a little bit smaller. So the circle on the left is probably 3 times more. So if we use real numbers, we can say something like, maybe here we have 50 leads per week, and here we have 100. So in terms of the list size, the person on the right is winning, right? This person is winning. In terms of the engaged list of subscribers, well, they're about equal. But in terms of dollar, in terms of sales, this person has, let's say, 2 people who are buying. Okay, I don't know exactly the price, but let's say the price is $100. You have 2 customers, and here, no, let's say 3. And here you have only 1 customer. So who's winning? Obviously, the person on the left-hand side is winning, because it doesn't matter really the size of your list. What matters is how much money you're going to make. So here, the person who has 100 leads, maybe the leads are not really qualified. Maybe they're not really part of the target market. And so they might engage, but very few people buy, like 1 out of 3. Here we have 3 people who buy, meaning by definition that the list here, the 50 leads, are of higher quality. So you can see that you have to play the 3 games simultaneously, in the sense that you have to look at the big picture. And the big picture, of course, ultimately, I don't want to sound too much like a capitalist, although I am. It is really about money, okay? This is what you should strive for. So, because that's email marketing. A lot of people, they look at email marketing and they will think of something like, oh, I want to keep I want to keep my customers informed. It's about education, it's about information, and all of that is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Education. You want to send a newsletter. You want to stay in touch. Blah blah blah, and that's fine. But the thing is that I'm a copywriter. Whenever I write copy, I make money. I mean, it's really that simple. It's what they call direct marketing or direct response marketing. Copy, which means like text that you're writing that is persuasive, it has to result in money. So for me, email marketing, yes, it's information, it's education, it's newsletter, it's reporting, blah, 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 even entertainment. But ultimately, it's about the money. You've got to be able to sell something. So if you structure your email marketing in order to make money, you will make money. Okay, like this is a little bit vague for me. Like, any teenager can do that. But if you're a serious email marketer, if you're a serious entrepreneur, you want to use email to make money because it has shown its potential already. Email was basically invented in the 1970s, right? So it's really the oldest digital marketing channel. But because it's the oldest, a lot of people overlook it. It's not as, let's say, sexy as Instagram, where you have pictures, or TikTok, where you have videos. It's not as sexy. And yet, what do you want to be? Do you want to be sexy or do you want to be rich? Ideally, you want to be both. So email marketing has proven itself over and over again. It's, $1 and you're going to make $40 in return. This is above social media. It's above YouTube. It's really, and the reason why, I guess, is that everyone has email. Okay, because to get a social media account, Facebook, TikTok, WhatsApp, you need to have an email address. Actually, WhatsApp doesn't require an email, but most social media accounts, they require an email. So everyone has an email, but email is underestimated. And now a lot of people use email or email marketing because they don't understand the secret, which sharing with you in this webinar. The secret, again, I really just want to emphasize it. It's a game, okay? It's supposed to be fun. You can do email marketing from your phone. It's a game. And once you understand that the game has only like 3 basic game, and these 3 games are interrelated, right? They're, in lockstep. The game number 1, you have to build your list. You have to build a list. Even if you don't have a product right now that you can generate easily with ChatGPT or Claude, even if you don't have a product, even if you don't have a service, even if you're, let's say, a teenager and you're only 15, dude, start building your list right now. Go on LinkedIn. Okay, I don't know if you're allowed. I think 15 is old enough, but you got to start building your list. No, okay, I'm just kidding. But anyone, you have to start building your list right now. That's critical. The second game is that you have to start practicing content creation. And again, your content has to be relevant. Relevant to whom? Well, relevant to your target market, right? You have to know exactly who is in your target market. You cannot serve everyone. Like, unless you're selling gasoline or bread or milk, you serve most people. But it has to be relevant, meaning that relevant is a function of the audience, like who is in your target market. So later on I'm going to teach you how to do online marketing research. Not difficult, but you have to figure out like who are you trying to serve. These are strategic variables you have to determine. Okay, relevance. Second, it's relevant to them, good, but is it useful? Okay, is it useful to them? And it's useful to them if the person that you're writing to, if they have, problems, if they have challenges, and you can help them with their problems or challenges, then it becomes useful. And finally, is it valuable? Because you can provide solutions to their problems and challenges, but maybe they can find those solutions elsewhere. So it's not as valuable. It's not as unique, let's say. So here, valuable, it has to be unique and it has to be differentiated from what they find online. Okay. So your content, you have to practice being relevant, useful, and valuable. And finally, of course, you have to learn how to master the sales process. And typically here, we're not talking about selling as a conversation. Here, basically, it's a matter of copywriting. Means that you have to use the right words that will stimulate them, that will get them to take action. And the copywriting, basically, it's about attention, interest, desire, action. So typically, if you want to sell to them and make money, well, you have to create a different sales page. And this is a sales page that will have a call to action at the bottom. So it's really a separate web page, and at the bottom, they're going to be invited to buy something. So this is where you're getting serious, right? Like by the time you send them email number 5, they're ready to sell and they trust you, and that's what email marketing is all about. So now we're gonna get into a level that is more granular, because it sounds good. I have to generate leads, I have to create content, convert them, but how do you actually do it inside of an email? So this is a general rule. Once you master these rules and you apply them to the letter, then you can break the rules. But at the beginning, for beginners, if you've never done email marketing before, it's very important to follow a model or a template that has worked before. You're like learning karate, right? Or any martial art. You have to focus on the basic. You cannot afford to be too fancy. So let me just draw for you exactly what is going on. So what is going on is that you have basically an opt-in page, and you can create an opt-in page. Like I use MailerLite, but it doesn't really matter which platform you're using. I used to teach MailChimp, but it's too complicated now. It's very powerful if you have experience, but it's not good for learning, email marketing. So I don't recommend MailChimp. You can switch to MailChimp easily later on, but stick to MailerLite. It's better for beginners. So in MailerLite, you create what they call an opt-in page. So this is just a web page, and you invite the traffic to visit. So I'm gonna talk about the traffic later on, but this opt-in page has only one purpose, and it is to get people's emails. So you're offering something here which we call a lead magnet. Basically, a lead magnet is awesome value, but you're giving it away for free. And there's an email box where they enter their name, their email, and their phone. And once they register their email and name and phone, they're gonna be part of your list, right? And then once they are part of your list, you can send them emails. Okay, so what is it that you're sending them exactly? Well, you're gonna send them 5 emails that are programmed. Okay, so you're not, it's not like every day you wake up and you have your cup of coffee and then you start sending them email. No. It's not like that. You have to program everything strategically so that you end up with a sale. Now, like I said before, you have to make money with email marketing. So you have to start with the end in mind. And the end here is email number 5, where you're going to make a sales pitch. Okay, you have to understand this. This is capitalism. Okay, we're not living under communism. You're not in the business of providing free information, blah, blah, blah. And then, there's never any transaction. In the same way that when you date a woman, at some point, you got to bring her home, or you got to go to her place. You have to take care of business. So at some point, you have to pitch something. But like Stephen Covey taught in the 1980s in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you start with the end in mind. And the end in mind is you want them to buy something. Okay, so let's start with pitch email number 5, where you're making a sales pitch. And like I said before, this sales pitch is basically, it has a link inside of the email, and in that link it takes them to a sales page. Obviously, you're not selling inside of the email. There's not enough room for you to design, like a beautiful offer. So there's a link to a sales page, and this is the sales page where you're making the pitch. So your sales page is almost like a sales rep. Okay, and this sales rep is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So your sales page is going to follow the AIDA formula. Usually there are other formulas or frameworks, but here, you have to grab their attention. You have to sustain their interest, keep their attention. You have to summon their desire. They really have to really want, like this has to be like a burning desire. This is like a candle. So they really have to desire your product. And finally, you ask them to take action. Like, today? Yes, today. Take action now. And, you're going to provide like incentives for them to take action today, right now. Okay. And so if you follow this framework, attention, interest, desire, action, you're going to get a sale. You're not going to get everyone to buy, but let's say, for the sake of argument, because I'm very scientific when it comes to marketing. And by the way, I want to recommend that you read the book, what is it? Scientific Advertising. This is absolutely a must read for anyone who's serious about digital marketing. Scientific Advertising by, what's his name? Oh yeah, Claude, is it Claude Hopkins? I think it's Claude Hopkins. It's a free book that you find online. Scientific. Okay, you have to approach email marketing in a scientific manner, meaning that you have to look at the numbers. So let's say there are, I don't know, 50 people who click on the link that leads to this sales page. And, you know, those 50 people, they click and they read. And at the end, you have, let's say, only 5 people who buy. It's still success. It's still success because, you know, you get 5 sales. And of course, you have to improve your copy, but, you know, you want the 5 sales to go higher, 6, 7, 8, etc. But if you have 5, you know, customers, you should celebrate. And so that's the goal here. The goal is to get them to email number 5, and, you know, they trust you and you make your sales pitch. Now, what's happening exactly in email 1, 2, 3, or 4? It's not that different from dating, you know, like you're not going to get serious with a woman on the first date. Although it happened to me once, you know, only once, you know, this woman I met at a wedding, she invited me to her place. And anyways, but that's the only time. I'm not that lucky. So email number 1, you know, 2, 3, 4, basically you have to answer the 6 questions. And, you know, what is your product? Why do people need it? Can I trust you? Can I trust me that I can achieve the same results that, you know, you promised your customers? And can I afford it? And should I buy now? Okay, so basically you have to answer these questions. But overall, again, you have to provide content that is relevant, useful, and valuable. So here you can introduce yourself. So this is like the principles, but you have to be more specific. Here you can talk about, you know, why they could benefit from your product. 3, you know, credibility. Why are you the person that they can trust? And here, you know, maybe you can talk about case studies. There are so many different types of emails when it comes to these 4 emails that focus on relevance, usefulness, and value. It really depends on your product or your service or your company. But overall, the goal here is that they have to learn to trust you. And so you have 4 emails. That's the time you have for them to trust you. And once they trust you, then, you know, you've earned that trust and you can make the sales pitch. Now, in some cases, you know, people, like if your product is really simple and the price is fair and it's amazing, you can make the sales pitch like in email number 1. There's no rule against that. You know, so what I'm teaching you here is just like general principles. Like, you know, for me to give you exactly the email sequence for your business, I'd have to do consulting for you. But this is a general course. It's just introducing you to the basic idea. And the basic idea is that you've got to build trust. You know, because if people go to your website and let's say it's like Amazon or eBay and they read about your product, well, then they read the specifications, they read the reviews, and they buy it. There's no need for email marketing, right? Like on Shopify, for example, some people go to a Shopify store, they see a video sales letter, they see photos, they see case studies, and they see a satisfaction guarantee. They just click buy. There's no need for email marketing. Email marketing is when you need to build trust. Usually it's when you need to build trust, and it takes time to build trust, right? And then in email number 5, that's when you're making the pitch. Now, you might think, wow, Peter, do I have to write for 2 weeks? Like this could take 1 week or it could take 2 weeks. You know, people might wonder, do I have to wait 2 weeks? Like, why don't I sell right away? Why do I have to wait till email number 5, you know? Well, the thing is that success is a process. Success, you know, like entrepreneurs who are not very mature, like in the business sense, they don't understand that success comes from process. Success doesn't come from something that you do. And this is so important. I'm going to I'm going to write it down here because I want you to remember this very important success principle, okay? Especially when it comes to business, where you have to invest in the long term. Business is not like having a job, okay? So you have to create the process, and then you're going to have success in the long term. So what I'm teaching you here goes beyond email marketing. It's really a philosophy that we should adopt if we're going to succeed. Because, you know, when you have a job, and this is where a lot of people have to upgrade their thinking and even change their identity, because when you're an employee and you become an entrepreneur, it's a different ball game. You know, anyways, when you have a job, you know, you do whatever you're supposed to do and you're getting money. And typically, you know, you can get the money within a week, like, you know, or 2 weeks. But when it comes to email marketing, it's very unlikely that you're going to get the money like after 1 week or even after 2 weeks, because it's a process, right? So the email marketing process, where you have to, you know, set up everything, the lead magnet, the opt-in page, it might take you a week to do all that. And it might take you 3 weeks or 4 weeks before you see some, you know, the first customer. So it might take 4 weeks, but it's okay, because if you do everything right, then after 4 weeks, you're going to start to make money. And after that, your emails are programmed automatically. So you're going to make money even while you're sleeping. Whereas the person here who's an employee, he can make money sooner, but he's not going to make a lot of money. And he definitely has to work. He has to show up at the office. And you know, you don't want that. You want financial freedom. And so financial freedom in, you know, through email marketing or digital marketing or social media or any kind of business, it requires a process. And, you know, you have to follow the process. It's like a recipe, you know. And so hopefully in this webinar, I was able to teach you, number one, you have to have a lead generation system, because it has to reliably produce leads every week. Okay, that's priority number one. Priority number two, you have to create content. And if you're not a good writer or video editor, you should hire someone. You have to create content that is relevant, useful, and or valuable. And number three, you have to sell through a sales page. And so at the beginning, you know, you don't have to be perfect in all of these three games. Like here, for example, you can be just 6 out of 10. Here, you might even be like just 4 out of 10. But here, you're 1 out of 10. So as long as you're making money, you know, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it doesn't matter. But as long as you have one customer, and the sales here is not zero. Like if it's zero, that's a big problem. But if you have one customer, then it's okay. You have something that works. And this is what they call the 1-1-1, the 1-1-1 rule. So you have like your lead generation works. You have a method that works. Your content strategy works. Okay. And you have a sales page that actually works. So for example, here, the opt-in page, if you have an opt-in page and, you know, let's say, I don't know, 100 people visit, and you can see that on your dashboard. 100 people visit your sales page. They click on your, not your sales page, your opt-in page, and 0 people enter the email. Well, that's not good. You got to fix that. You have to have at least one lead. And here, you have to have at least one person who is engaged with your content. Like if you send an email to 100 people, and let's say you send to 100 people, and let's say 40 people open, because you can track the number of opens, and then you have 0 people who click on any link, 0 clicks, then that's not good, because like I said, you need at least one. Okay, same thing here, you need at least one. So at the beginning, you don't need to have like, you know, 4 and then, you know, 8 and then, you know, 5 sales. No, you don't need to. Actually, this is not correct, because the numbers have to go down. So it has to be something like 100, 50, 3 sales, right? So 100 leads, 50 engaged, and 3 customers. So it doesn't have to be these numbers. These numbers are great. You know, it just has to be 1-1-1. So the minute that you have one person who registers to your email list, you should succeed. You should celebrate. The minute you have one person who clicks on a link, you should you should celebrate. The minute you have one customer, you should celebrate. Afterwards, you just gonna have to multiply. You go from one lead to more. You go from one engaged reader to more, and you go from one customer to more. So you just have to succeed. It's like the minimum viable product. I would call this the minimum viable campaign. Let's say minimum viable campaign. The minimum is 1. Okay. So how do you actually excel at those games? Like I said, once again, it's all about lead generation. How do you generate leads? There are many ways. I'm going to mention a couple. How do you create content? And what are the techniques for getting them to convert from subscriber to customer? The typical way to generate leads is you're offering something for free, what we call a lead magnet. I don't like that term because it's a little bit offensive. It's like your customers are pieces of metal, and you're using a magnet, so it's not really good. But basically, it's a lead magnet is just a gift, a free gift. So you have to create a free gift. It can be an ebook, it can be a video tutorial, it can be a video course, it can be like even a discount if you have a well-known brand or your product is good. Another way to generate leads is you can organize events. For example, on Facebook, you invite your friends or people on Facebook, they attend your events, and during the event you invite them to register to your list. Another one is if you run a physical business, you can just ask them to drop their business cards into a bowl, and you're going to do a raffle or something like that. There are so many ways, like hundreds of ways to generate leads. That is usually not a problem. The problem is that your lead it's not just a quantity of leads, it's a quality. So the people who join your email list, they have to be part of your target market. Okay. And so your gift, your events, your business, no, not a business card, but your gift and your events, they have to appeal to people who are part of your target market. So for example, if you're a marketing coach, okay, and you offer a gift, something like, become financially free, and you're writing a book and you're giving that book. Well, there are many people who are interested in becoming financially free, but they're not really in business, right? And so they don't really need your help as a marketing coach. And so there's a mismatch between the people who, request your free gift, and because they're not part of your target market. So it has to be related. So here, instead of financial freedom ebook, you can give them an ebook on, on marketing. A simple method to market your services. So if they go for that ebook about marketing, then chances are they might need a marketing coach because it's all about marketing. And so that's the challenge. Not just the quantity of leads, but also the quality of the leads. When it comes to content, you just have to know what is it that your customers want to know more about. And it's very simple. You go on Facebook or you go on LinkedIn and you read about what comments people are putting out there. What are the problems and challenges that they have? And then your content is supposed to help them with, what is going on in their life, in their career, in their business, in their relationship. So content is typically not a big problem because you can go out there and online, there are tons of content. You can just grab the content that you feel might be relevant, useful, or valuable to your subscribers, and you just rewrite them or repurpose them. It's not difficult. The sales conversion, that I think is ultimately the challenge. You have to create a sales page that will convert. And typically in email marketing, for all of these 3 different games, you want to do something that they call split testing. And split testing is one of those incredible techniques, very scientific, that is possible, I think, only by email. It's not really possible on social media like YouTube or Facebook or WhatsApp, LinkedIn. It's not really possible. And I'm going to explain basically what split testing is all about, and you can understand the basic idea. It's very powerful. Split testing is when you split your list into two groups. So let's say you have 400 people in your list. So you split them into two groups. So 200 for list A and 200 for list B. And then you send them the same email, but there's one line or one variable that is different. So here, the subject line, it can be emotional, it has exclamation marks. And then the second subject line is more like sober. And so after that, the way that you track the result, because the subject line is critical for the open rate. So if here you have because oftentimes you cannot really know in advance. That's why we're doing the split testing. You have two hypotheses and you want to figure out which one is the winner. So here, let's say the subject line is emotional, and you get, let's say, 100 people who open. Here, you have 120 who open. So obviously, this is the winner, right? Actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because I cannot teach it here, but people might think, well, 120 is higher than 100, and therefore this is the winner. But it's not that simple, because we have to perform what they call a chi-square test to determine whether this difference, this delta of 20, is it statistically significant? In other words, is it really a winner? Sometimes, it's just a variation. It's not really a winner. So we have to determine whether it's statistically significant. But that's a little bit complicated. You don't have to really know about that right now. The main idea here is that you have to do split testing. And so here we're doing split testing with the subject line, but you can also do split testing with other variables. So this is one variable which you're changing, and everything else is the same. And then you do another split test, and this time you're changing the offer. So you have offer A versus offer B. Okay, a different offer, a different special offer. Or the variable could be, you put a picture A, let's say a picture of a woman versus a picture of a man. Which one sells more? We don't know. You just don't know. Another variable that you could be testing could be the length. Like one email is very short. Let's say it has 20 words. The other one has 50 words. So which one, converts more? And so, that's one of the powerful thing about email marketing. It's really amenable to scientific experimentation. And that's not, I don't think it's possible. I'm not a social media expert, but I don't think it's possible on YouTube or Facebook, because YouTube is sending your videos to all your subscribers. So there's no split testing. On LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn newsletter. I mean, all my subscribers, I have over 1,000. They get the same newsletter because LinkedIn is distributing, not me. So I cannot do the split testing. TikTok, I don't think so. And WhatsApp, Telegram, you can't do it. So email marketing has this tremendous advantage where, you can do split testing, which means it's scientific. So let's talk about the benefits of email marketing compared to other channels. Like number one, like I said, it's scientific, so you can improve through data and split testing. Number two, you can program. On social media, yeah, you can program the posting on Facebook, etc. But it's not as granular, because here the programming can be very granular. And what I mean is that, let me just explain. What I mean by programming is that, I'm just going to mention it briefly because this could be the subject of a whole 2-hour webinar. What I mean by programming is that it has something called if. Okay, so if the reader opens your email, then you send the email number 2. Okay, if the reader does not open, let's say in 24 hours, then you don't send email number 2. They didn't even read email number 1, right? So you resend email number 1. Okay, so email number 1 here is sent, and these are the 2 scenarios. So that's what I mean by programming. It's very algorithmic. You know, depending on what the subscriber is doing or not doing, you can program the next email. This is really, really powerful. And then after you send them email number 2, the same thing happens. If they click on a link, you know, you send them email number 3. If they don't click on a link, you know, you're not going to send them the same email number 2. That's like repetition. So if they don't click on the link, maybe you can send them a similar email, okay, like email number 2, but version B. And version B maybe is going to say something like, click on that link, you know, or something like that. I'm just kidding. But email number 2B is going to really highlight the fact that they should click on the link, because otherwise you cannot proceed. So that's just a very simple example of what you can do in terms of programming, you know, your emails ahead of time. So basically, theoretically, technically, you could spend like one afternoon programming the next, I don't know, the next 20 or even the next 50 emails for the next few weeks, and you just wait until people buy. Now, of course, you don't do automation of 20 or 50 emails unless you know that those emails are going to work, right? So at the beginning, it has to be manual. You have to send email, you know, and then you track the results, you know, the open rate, the click-through rate, etc. And then once you have something that really works, then you automate. So at the beginning, you have to create a system first, and later on, you can automate your email system, but it's only later. So here, you know, you have to experiment first. And once you experiment, you have a system that actually works, and then you automate so that you can remove yourself from email marketing activities. So guys, this is a very high level overview of email marketing. I have to stop here because my throat is beginning to hurt. But, you know, in a nutshell, email, everything that I've shown you here, it's really not difficult. You know, like even a teenager can learn email marketing, because, you know, if you speak English and if you can write good English, there's no reason why you cannot make money with email marketing. Of course, you need to have a good product. So I assume that you have a good product. I assume you have a clear target market. So that's basically, you know, the two only assumptions I have. You know, you've got to have a good product to sell. You can sell the service too, but usually, like, you know, if you're in business, it's more like you have a product, and you have to be somewhat sure. It doesn't have to be 100% sure, but you have to know who is your target market. And if you have these two requirements, then there's no reason why you can't do email marketing, because it's just a game that has 3 levels. Level number 1, level number 2, and level number 3. Now, it's possible that your level is currently just level 1. Maybe you don't know how to create content yet, but it's okay. If you're at level 1 and you can get people to join your list, that's good. And now you have to focus on level 2, which is content generation or writing. Now, the great thing about content generation is that, you know, you don't have to write. ChatGPT is your writer. And like ChatGPT can also create the free gift here. Okay, oh my God, ChatGPT can actually write your sales letters too, your sales page, right? So really, with ChatGPT or your favorite large language model, there is no excuse anymore, because the large language models out there can actually help you with these 3 games, right? And so there's no excuse anymore. Maybe the only thing, the 2 things that ChatGPT cannot help you with is the product. It cannot really know what people want. It can help you to create a product, but you have to determine what is your product, and you have to determine who is your target market. ChatGPT can help you for sure, but it cannot make that decision. So these are the 2 decisions that you have to make with the help and support and research of ChatGPT. So these are the 2 executive decisions you have to make. And what I mean by a decision is that they're difficult to reverse. Like once you've decided to create a product, you got to go all in. That's what decision means. Decision means commitment. And so you have to commit. ChatGPT is never going to commit. Okay. It can't. It doesn't have more moral accountability. It cannot commit. Okay. It can help you, but you have to commit by making decisions. You have to decide what is my product and who is my target market. And once you've made these 2 very important decisions, then ChatGPT can help you with, the leads, the engagement, and the sales. And yeah, I will definitely give more webinars, but this is what I know. This is really email marketing at a very high strategic level. And once you understand, and maybe that should be the learning objective today. The learning objective is not for you to open a MailerLite account and start doing email marketing and start making money. No, the important thing is for you to understand that email marketing is just 3 games or 3 levels of a game. And you master these 3 levels one at a time. Like nobody who starts to play a video game suddenly wants to get to level 3. You can't. You have to finish level 1. You have to start to build your list, and then you go to level 2. You have to learn how to generate content with ChatGPT. And then number 3, you have to learn to, answer all the questions so that you can get, a purchase from a customer. Now, I'm going to end with a very important trick because I think the problem, the challenge that most people have when it comes to selling, it's not technical, it's not intellectual. You don't have to be that smart. You don't have to be that clever or that creative. You just have to understand something about selling, and I'm going to give you the secret. The secret to selling is really, really not hard. And I'm telling you, after 30 years in the sales and marketing industry, I was a sales trainer, I was a telemarketer. It's really, really that simple. The secret, I'm going to share with you the secret to selling next week. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to tell you the secret to selling right now. And it's the same secret to seducing women, seducing investors, seducing men. It's always the same. Okay. So here's the secret. Are you paying attention? Okay. Just making sure. Here's the secret. It's what I call the checkbox secret. Okay. Here's what it is. Imagine that the prospect, the investor, the woman, whoever you want to seduce or sell to, imagine that they have a checklist. Now, this checklist might not even be conscious to them, but I guarantee you everyone has a checklist, okay? Now, once you discover what's on their checklist, meaning the criteria, you just have to talk to them so that mentally they're going to make a check. So let's say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You talk to them and, oh, they just made a check. Okay, so you passed one. And then you're talking, oh, another check. And by the way, that's why the saying goes, the longer the what is it? The longer the pitch, the sweeter. So anyways, the point is that the more you talk, the more chances you have to check all the criteria. So anyways, you're talking. Oh, another check. You're talking. They ask you a question. Oh, another check. You're talking. You're showing. You're demonstrating. Blah blah blah. Check. And suddenly, check. And suddenly, all the check boxes have been selected, and that's when you get a sale. And that's it. That's what selling is all about. Selling is simply helping them to, check off the boxes. It's really that simple. And depending on the prospect, and this is where the art of selling comes from. You talk to a prospect, and sometimes that they have only 2 check boxes, and for other prospect you talk to and the way they interact with you, and that's too advanced for me to teach you here, but that they have 6 check boxes and this person has only 2. Well, if you check those 2, that's it. You're making the money, right? And so that's the art of selling. But whether it's 2 boxes or 6 boxes, everyone, I guarantee you, they have a checklist. And if you check all the boxes, you will get the sale. And that's it. Same thing with investors. You're trying to recruit an angel investor, a seed round, they're all the same. They have a checklist. Now here's the thing. People will not tell you what is on their checklist. Okay. It's like a mystery, but that's where marketing research comes into play. And it's a whole course of 60 hours that I've been teaching at TAV. The whole point, well, not the whole point, but one of the key advantages of doing market research and focus groups and listening to your customers is that you discover the checklist, and therefore you can just talk, and in your copy, in your sales pitch, you just select all the check boxes. The following idea just came to me, so I might as well share it with you. When I was working for IBM Canada, I was in charge of corporate proposals, and these were binders that we would send with the proposals, multi-million-dollar proposals. I was working at IBM in 1995, one of the best jobs I ever landed. So I was working in corporate proposals, and they had this thing called request for proposals. And what an RFP is, request for proposal, is basically when a company is inviting companies to pitch their services. Okay, so they are requesting proposals. And so, typically somebody would invite IBM, a major IT player. They would invite CGI, they would invite other companies, I don't know, I forgot, Hewlett Packard, to pitch for a project. And so in the request for proposal, which is a document, you can find examples online, but they would actually write down the checklist. Okay, so in B2B, sometimes it's very explicit. That's why I love B2B. They would write down the checklist, meaning that they will tell the companies like IBM, okay, we're going to look at your proposal and we're going to evaluate you based on the following criteria. Okay, for example, number 1, history. Like, are you a startup or have you been around for 50 years, right? They need to see the history. Another one is the quality of services. Another one is industry knowledge. What do you know about our industry? Another one could be, I don't know, I forgot. I don't remember, but it could be quality. Another one could be the level of service. And so not only they give you the checklist, but they actually give you the percentage. It's a little bit like, when you take a course at college, right? The professor will tell you, well, the midterm is going to be 30%, etc. So here they can say the history is 10%, the services that you offer, the industry might be 20%. Oh, so it means that you have to show in your proposal that you really know the industry and you've served clients like that, like clients in that industry. The quality could be maybe 20%, and maybe the customer service could be 30%. No, actually, it cannot be that high, but let's say it's 20%. And industry experience, that could be 30%. They need someone who knows their industry. So in the case of B2B or business to business, it's very detailed. It's not just a checkbox. In the box, they will actually write your score. So for example, IBM, in terms of history, in that box, it's not just a check mark. In that box, they might say, oh, IBM deserves, let's say, 8%. And then in terms of industry, IBM deserves only 20% out of 30. So this is how they score you in B2B. And that might very well be your case if you're serving a business. But by and large, to keep it simple, selling is just about helping the customer, the prospect, to check off the mark. So number one, you have to know the criteria that the prospect will be using to evaluate you. Okay. And number two, you have to mention those criteria in your email. Because if you don't give them the information that they need, right, they need to know if you satisfy this criteria. If you don't give them the information, well, they cannot select the box, and therefore you're never going to get the sale. So to me, email marketing is not that different from sales. Email marketing, you just have to help them to check the boxes. That's it. It's really not difficult. If you help them to check the boxes, you will get the purchase order. It's really that simple. Now, there's a phenomenon. I don't know to what extent it applies. It probably doesn't apply in business, but I'm just going to end with this interesting fact. the phenomenon in dating is that a lot of times, you will see that among your friends, a woman will say that, oh, I need a man who's tall, who is this, who's that, who is this, and then suddenly, a few months later, you see the man that she's with, like, he doesn't have those characteristics. He has maybe just one, and still she's with him. So to what extent does it apply? What does it mean? And probably the same thing for men. It means that we might say we want something or someone, but actually it's not what we say, it's what we do. So if the woman chooses to be with this man and he doesn't have 3 of the criteria that she wanted verbally, it doesn't matter what she says. It's what she is doing. So in a way, it applies to email marketing, because email marketing is really simple. Email marketing, it's all about data. It's not about what people say they want. If you send them the right content, the right value, the right free gift, and the right offer, and you can test it. Again, it's about data. It's not about opinion or whatever people say. It's about data, and you give them, all the data and information, and from their behavior, you get the data, which will improve your email marketing. You will make money. So what does it mean? It means that you might start at the beginning of your email marketing journey. You might have little knowledge, but over time, you get to know your subscribers more, and over time you increase your knowledge, and the more knowledge you have, the more money you make. And this is one thing, it just occurred to me, it's one thing that is only possible with email marketing, because email marketing is a loop, right? You send them an email and they're going to do something. Like, even when they don't do something, that is doing something, right? Even when they don't open the email, it tells you your subject line is not good. Or they open the email, but they don't click. Well, it means your content is not good. So, whenever you send an email out there, and this is probably one of the key benefits of email, whenever you send an email out there, either you're making money or you're learning. So both are good, because if you're making money from your email campaign, you just scale it up and you're going to make more money. If you don't make money, but you gain knowledge, then maybe you're going to gain more knowledge, and at some point you are going to make money. So it's just a matter of staying the course. And that's why I love email marketing. I love marketing communications. I've been in this industry for more than 20 years. Every time I send an email, every time I send a text, every time I make a phone call, I always make money, because even if you don't make money, you're going to get the knowledge that is worth money, and you just grow that knowledge. At some point, your customers so well. You know what email they open, what email they don't open. You know what links they click on, what links they don't click on. You know what sales offer they go for and what sales offer they don't go for. You know everything about them, right? And therefore, you're going to get better. So that's why I love email marketing. It's just about sending an email. Everyone has an email. Even in developing countries, I don't care. Well, unless you live in a village in the Amazon forest, but everyone has an email, and therefore it's not hard to make money. So anyways, guys, I'm going to stop here, but hopefully you've got a lot of value from this this crash course. And let me know what you think. Let me know your questions, and I'll try to help you with future webinars.